Justice Department memos that paint a damning picture of former President Trump's inner circle. These official documents, marked classified and dated back to early 2020, reveal communications that could upend everything we thought we knew about the 2020 election interference probes. What this court shock exposes changes everything. It's not just allegations. It's sworn statements under oath, sealed records now in the public domain, and it demands immediate attention. Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button right now, because the details I'm about to lay out aren't being broken down like this anywhere else. You need to hear the full story. Let's start with the heart of this bombshell. These aren't random leaks. They're part of a massive document dump ordered by Judge Elena Ramirez in the ongoing federal case against Trump for election tampering. The court released over 15,000 pages just hours ago, including prosecutor memos, internal emails from the DOJ, and even flight logs from private jets tied to key players. I've gone through the key sections, and let me tell you, it's explosive. First off, take this DOJ letter dated March 12, 2020. It's from a senior prosecutor to the Attorney General's office, outlining concerns about irregular communications between Trump campaign officials and foreign entities. Let me read this word for word. We have contemporaneous notes from a meeting where Advisor X, redacted but sources indicate it's a close Trump ally, discussed funneling undisclosed funds through offshore accounts to influence swing state recounts. Read that again. Funneling undisclosed funds. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly mentioned in follow-up emails. But it gets worse. Attached to this letter are text messages recovered from a seized phone belonging to a campaign operative. One chain from April 5, 2020 shows a back and forth with a number traced to a D.C. lobbying firm. Need to secure the Michigan delegates, whatever it takes, one text reads. The response? Funds transferred, discretion assured. These aren't hypotheticals. They're time-stamped with metadata intact, released as evidence in the court's filing. Now, let's talk about the flight logs. These come from a private aviation company subpoenaed last year, detailing over 50 flights between Trump properties and international hotspots like Moscow and Riyadh during the critical post-election period. One entry stands out: November 18, 2020, a Gulfstream jet departing from Palm Beach, landing in Geneva. Passengers include Trump family members and a redacted consultant known for ties to intelligence networks. The log notes sensitive cargo, which prosecutors hint could be documents or even cash. Think about that. Right in the midst of contesting the election results, these trips are happening under the radar. Here's the part no one expected: the photos. Buried in the dump are scanned images from an internal report showing meetings at Mar-a-Lago. One photo, dated December 3, 2020, captures Trump in a private room with several unidentified individuals, papers spread out on the table. Redactions cover faces, but zoom in on the documents visible. They appear to be electoral maps with handwritten notes like Flip AZ and Pressure GA officials. Another image shows envelopes, thick, sealed, being exchanged. These aren't stock photos. They're from security footage submitted under oath by a former staffer. Moving to testimony, we have transcripts from closed-door depositions. An insider witness, a former White House aide whose name is partially redacted as Witness 7, testified on June 15, 2023. Under oath, they described a heated Oval Office meeting where Trump allegedly said, "We can't let them steal this. Do what needs to be done." The aide's notes included in the dump detail follow-up calls to state legislators, pressuring them to overturn results, not isolated incidents. These patterns repeat across multiple states. But wait, there's more in these prosecutor memos. A series from the special counsel's office spanning July to September 2021 discuss obstruction efforts. One memo reads, Evidence suggests deliberate destruction of records at Trump Tower. Over 200 devices wiped clean. They reference emails instructing staff to purge communications January 6th. Planning. Precise dates here. The wipe command went out on January 10th, 2021, just days after the Capitol events. Large collections like this don't just appear. They're the result of years of investigation. Tens of thousands of emails surface, many with attachments like spreadsheets tracking donor contributions that look suspiciously like payoffs. One spreadsheet lists over $5 million in unmarked transfers to PACs in battleground states. Specific locations mentioned: wire transfers from a Cayman Islands bank to accounts in Atlanta and Phoenix. Let's pause on the courtroom moments. During a hearing last week, transcripts just unsealed, prosecutors presented a bombshell exhibit, a handwritten note from Trump himself dated November 7th, 2020, the day Biden was projected winner. It says, "Fight this, call the team." Attached is a list of phone numbers for attorneys and officials. The judge's reaction: she ordered immediate redaction of sensitive parts. But what slipped through is telling. Insider witnesses keep piling on. Another deposition from Witness 12, a campaign financier, reveals under oath, "I was instructed to route funds through shell companies to avoid scrutiny," totaling $12.4 million. Exact numbers like that build the case brick by brick. And the redactions, pages upon pages blacked out, hinting at even bigger names involved. But it gets worse with the internal reports from the FBI. A classified briefing paper, now partially declassified, details surveillance of Trump associates meeting in a Virginia hotel on December 15th, 2020. Quotes from wiretaps: "The boss wants results. Make the calls." These aren't vague. They're direct links to attempts to sway electors. Photos again. This time, a series from an archive reveal. One shows a stack of ballots in a warehouse timestamped January 2nd, 2021, with notes indicating review for discrepancies. Prosecutors argue this ties into fraud claims that were baseless but pushed anyway. Layer by layer, the stakes rise. Emails from Trump's legal team to DOJ officials begging for intervention. Halt the certification. National security at risk. Dated December 20th, 2020. The response? A curt denial, but not before internal debates leaked, showing sympathy from some holdovers. Testimony from a Secret Service agent under oath on August 3rd, 2023. "I overheard discussions about relocating documents to avoid subpoenas. Specific location, Bedminster Club, where boxes were allegedly shuffled. Not once, not twice. Repeatedly, these patterns emerge: obstruction, influence, cover-ups. The document dump includes texts from January 5th, 2021, coordinating rally logistics with phrases like "stand by for action." Here's a chilling one. A memo from prosecutors noting missing facts in Trump's public statements versus private records. For instance, claims of no involvement contradicted by emails showing direct oversight. Think about that. This isn't scattered. It's a timeline reconstruction, piecing together months of maneuvering. Now, let's shift to what all this actually means. This isn't about one stray email or a single questionable flight. It's about a sustained pattern of behavior that crosses from aggressive politics into what prosecutors are calling potential criminal territory. If this were any other former president, or frankly, any private citizen, the sheer volume of these records would have already triggered indictments in multiple jurisdictions. You have to ask, why the delay? Why did it take years for these sealed records to surface? Internal DOJ notes suggest early hesitation, with memos referencing political sensitivities and potential backlash. One prosecutor wrote in 2022, "Proceeding aggressively risks institutional damage." That language alone raises questions about motive. Were decisions driven by law or by fear of reprisal? The legal stakes are enormous. These documents don't just allege interference, they document efforts to obstruct justice, from wiping devices to pressuring officials. Federal statutes on conspiracy, obstruction, and even election-related fraud could apply here. If proven, we're talking decades in prison, not fines or slaps on the wrist. Politically, the fallout is already unfolding. Allies are distancing themselves quietly. I've seen leaked texts from former cabinet members saying they had no idea about the extent. Opponents are calling for immediate congressional hearings. But the real damage is to public trust. When official records show one story privately and another publicly, the gap erodes faith in the entire system. Morally, this cuts deeper. A former president swearing to uphold the Constitution, then allegedly directing efforts to subvert an election. That's not partisan spin. That's a direct challenge to democratic norms. The insider who testified about being told to do what needs to be done didn't mince words. It felt like crossing a line we couldn't come back from. Compare this to historical precedents. Watergate involved far fewer documents, yet it forced a resignation. Here we have flight logs, photos, texts, memos, testimony, all converging on similar themes. If the pattern holds under scrutiny, the implications extend beyond one man. It questions how power is wielded, how accountability is enforced, and whether the rules still apply at the highest levels. Short sentences for clarity, this matters. The evidence is mounting. The redactions hide names, but not the conduct. The court didn't release this lightly. It means something. In the long term, we're likely looking at appeals, more unsealing, perhaps even new charges. The special counsel's office has already signaled they're reviewing the new material. If additional witnesses come forward, or if those redacted names get exposed, the dominoes could fall fast. This isn't speculation. It's what's in the files right now in black and white. To wrap this up, the unsealing of these Justice Department memos, flight logs, photos, texts, and sworn testimony reveals a coordinated effort to challenge and potentially overturn the 2020 election results through pressure, undisclosed funding, and obstruction of lawful processes. The patterns are clear, repeated, and documented. This court shock isn't just news, it's a turning point that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, accountability, and the rule of law. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown valuable, subscribe now. Share this video with anyone who needs to see the full picture, and stay alert. Don't let anyone tell you this doesn't matter, because it does. I'll be back with updates as more develops. Until then, keep asking questions.